History, dinosaurs, football. Hey, how you doing? It's Planet Earth. Mr. H here with you on Friday. Hope you had a great week. I had an absolutely fantastic one. Kind of been on vacation, but that's okay. It's okay. I showed up with you guys anyway because I want to be here with you. No problem. What are we talking about today? Well, over on my Instagram channel, Mr. H History Rescue, wink, wink, nod, nod, say no more, check it out. I've been on this medieval Asiatic invader kick for some reason. Talked about Attila and Tamerlane. So let's talk where these guys come from here. It's called the Eurasian Steppe. See that stuff in blue? Wide open country all the way from Mongolia to about Hungary, Romania area. See this little curve over here? It's the Caspian. That's the not Caspian. That's the Carpathian Mountains. Wide open prairies. Um, they just seem to go on forever and ever. And Europe has a history of these Asiatic invaders, nomadic invaders. China deals with them too, and they drift across. We had the Huns, we had the Avars, Kalmyks up there, Khazars, of course the Mongols are the famous ones. So a lot of Magyars, a lot of these people they just drift across, and it's usually because of the climate. It's warmer and wetter, and these are nomads. They're just sort of following the herds and the weather, except for the Mongols who decided to conquer the whole thing. But this is how this stuff comes across. And a lot of people, the two groups people are most fascinated with are both the Huns and the Mongols. Huns because they're the first invaders from the east, and the Mongols because clearly the most successful ones. Let's talk about the Huns. But before we get to the Huns, when you're riding across those wide open steppe country with nothing else going on, check out my book Heaven's Steel from Lulu.com. It's great for reading when you're on horseback across the Caspian steppe because there's nothing really happening out there. It's popular out on the Kalmyk steppe too. Lots of reviews from there. If you happen to be in Mount Washington, JJ's Family Restaurant, awesome place. You can read it there because always a line you gotta wait. But hey, it's worth the wait. Awesome place. Read my book while you're there. And Mr. H gets a buck. I also realize I misspelled step, but hey, don't worry about it. Alrighty, so Attila. Everyone has this impression that they sort of came out of the east from nowhere and it surprised everybody. The Romans win the big battle over the Carpathian Plains and then they disappear from history. No, it is not really, because first of all, the Huns coming from somewhere in the east, we're not really sure where. Volga River makes sense. Um, they've been around a while. The Romans knew who the Huns were. In fact, they've been raiding the Eastern Roman Empire for a very long time. The Western Roman Empire paying them tribute, translation, bribe, to stay out of all of this. And um, so they knew who they were. And Attila the Hun isn't just some guy who crawled out of a hole someplace. He actually could speak Latin, fairly well educated considering the circumstances, geopolitically very astute. I mean, he knew the history of everything around him. So, he may have done the savage thing to kind of psycho warfare here, but, he knew what he was doing. And this map you're seeing of Empire of Attila the Hun, it's not like the Roman Empire with like defined boundaries and actual, cities and things. It's kind of a little ramshackle. But on the other hand, Attila is not exactly, some guy who crawled out of a hole, like I said earlier. So the Romans knew about Attila. They dealt with Attila. Attila had actually visited the Roman Empire. Romans had actually been to Attila's empire, capital over there, Pannonia. So it wasn't like he was completely foreign. And what is a Hun exactly? Huns originated somewhere in the east. We think uh, west of Mongolia someplace. The Chinese might have fought their ancestors called the Hushing Nu back in 44 BC, at the same time, Caesar was getting stabbed to death. And they drifted their way across Eurasia. It wasn't like they just galloped across one day. It's, centuries long, 400 years, like I said earlier, they're following the rain and the herds and everything. Attila is not born in Asia. He's born somewhere around here, somewhere probably, and spent his whole life there. Never even saw the East. And what is a Hun exactly? They started off Asian, but it's like a snowball, right? They're picking people up along the way. So there's a lot of Germans who pledged loyalty to them. There's other tribes along the way, Avars down here, people like that. the Alans down here, I should say. So it's kind of a polyglot. Start off as Asian and picking people up along the way. And of course, starts the big debate. What does the Hun look like? We'll get to that later. And we know about Attila the Hun finally invading the Western Roman Empire, losing the battle here at Chalons at 451. Some people say 453. And it was like he lost and disappeared. He went back and then invaded Italy. And there's nothing could have stopped him if he really wanted to go into Rome. He wanted to get back. The reason the whole thing started, one, is about conquest, and two, he was under the impression that the Honora, Valentinian III, the emperor at the time, not a nice guy, was had promised his sister's hands to him, which, he might have said it offhand or something, or maybe Attila just made it up. So a battle, they call it Catalupian Plains. I like to say Chalons. You see 451 most of the time, sometimes 453. It's the first actual defeat of the Huns. So they beat the Huns and they drove them back. They had help from Germanic allies like the Visigoths, because even though they didn't get along with each other, the Huns are a bigger threat. So everybody came together, Lord of the Rings style over here, to fight off the greater attack. So the Huns lose and they drop back. But, it wasn't like they just disappeared from history. Like I said, they came back the following year and invaded Italy. And there wasn't a thing the Romans could do. And Valentinian III, Mr. Heroic over here, abandons Rome and runs to Ravenna because it was surrounded by swamps and hard for the Huns to get at him. So the only reason Rome didn't get destroyed in 450s was because Pope Leo III went out, Pope Leo I went out there to talk to Attila to convince him not to destroy Rome. We don't know exactly what he said. Somebody said, you don't want to deal with the property taxes, high prices in Rome. I just made that up. Nobody really knows why, but he turned around and left, and that was the end of that. And the Roman Empire's got 20 years left in it, so, the whole thing's collapsing. So the Huns don't sack Rome in 453. Instead, the Vandals will do it in 455 for them. So as you can tell, Rome's kind of going downhill, but had enough strength there to hold off the Huns at the end and give the empire another 20 years. A lot of people talk about, what did Attila look like? Oh, here we go. There was once an article I read dated from the 50s. What race were the Huns? People flip out about that now. A lot of people, kind of have this impression, somewhat Mongol-like. And then there was Gerard Butler back in 2001. Doesn't look anything remotely Asian. According to Jordanes, the Roman historian at the time, Attila was short of stature, broad head, broad nose, somewhat suntan. So I'm betting probably more like this than that. But, when you're a casting call and you got to find somebody real fast, you grab whoever you can. So probably something more along these lines. But like I said, Huns are kind of a genetic mixture of everything. So, it doesn't really matter what he looks like when he's about to burn down the city. No one really cares, right? But Attila the Hun, very smart guy, more credit than people give him for. How did they get over? There's also a debate on what the Huns' horses look like. We have a good idea what the Mongols rode. Here we are, Przewalski's horse, called the Mongolian pony. Very short, muscular animal. Eats a little bit of grass, a little bit of water, goes all the way across Eurasia. The Mongols definitely rode these. They date back to the Ice Age, by the way. We got fossils from 30,000 years ago. But we don't know exactly what kind of horses the Huns had because, like I said, they've been in Europe for a while. They may have had a quote-unquote European or Middle Eastern horses at the time. So I don't think they were riding these animals in the 400s, but definitely had them in the 1200s. Attila has a somewhat inglorious end. He had quite a few wives. One at the end, Edilco. Some people said he died on the wedding night. We think, according to records, he drank a lot and had a nosebleed and choked to death on his own blood. So, what an inglorious end over here. Norse mythology has Edilco killing him on the wedding night while he slept, to avenge her fallen kinsman. A lot of people had fallen kinsmen due to Attila, so we're not really sure. The point is, he's dead. They fall apart. Rome gets to avoid that threat. Instead, they've got other ones coming. Hey, here's the word of the day. Holotype. What's a holotype? A single-type specimen upon which a description and name of a new species is based. That means the very first fossil. And guess what they have holotypes of? At the Museum of Natural History, Carnegie. What do you think? Huh? That's right. We got two things. Everyone knows about the T-Rex. But did you know about FedExia? Yep, FedExia. Does it look like Federal Express? Because that's who they named it for. Yes, corporate sponsorships have been around a lot longer than we thought. FedExia was discovered in 2004 near the airport. Yeah, as on the land owned by Federal Express. So there it is. We have an amphibian from the Carboniferous period, approximately 300 million years ago, named for Federal Express. And of course, this is Pittsburgh, so naturally it's black and gold. Sits over there at the museum over on Forbes Avenue, and we have a skull and other assorted parts. They decide that's what it looks like, and there it is in black and gold, enjoying the tropical seas of Pittsburgh in 300 million years ago. Now, of course, we also have one in black and gold just in case, right? Give Pitt some props over there. I'm sure they did some work to identify this thing. But this is the one everybody goes to see, right? T-Rex. This is the old pose. Remember talking about how they used to depict dinosaurs having an upright posture? This is a picture from, I don't know when this is, man. It looks like the 50s or something. And then over here, allegedly from the 70s, though it looks very clear. They always had a model of the skull, but here's the real one. You can tell it's kind of fake right there. This dates back, I think they finally started switching things up around 1985 or so. I'm not really sure. That's what we have today. We got two of them. Yeah, one's real, one's fake. Which one do you think's real and fake? Which one do you think, huh? You can answer down in the comments if you like. Number one, number two. I'll give you a hint. It's this one. Hint, that's the answer. This is the real one. But did you know that? Yeah, they look pretty close. I can tell because I've seen this thing a million times, so you can kind of tell by the teeth a little bit. But, yep, that's my old friend. I like to go visit him every now and again because way back in the dark ages when I was a kid, you know, I remember this skeleton. I've always kind of gone there to go hang out with him every now and again. That's my old friend. See his teeth? They look way too real, huh? Way too sharp. But, yep, this is the real one over here. My friend T-Rex. Checking him out, see what's going on with him. Not much happening. You know, he's been there forever. This is a holotype. This is the very first T-Rex skeleton. They discovered it in Montana in 1905, and of course they brought it to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is the home of the T-Rex holotype. So everything that's ever been discovered about T-Rex began here in the Steel City. Now, speaking of champions, the Steelers, the Penguins, Pirates have one way back in 1979. T-Rex, champion of all dinosaurs. Over in the United Football League for the third year in a row, we have the Birmingham Stallions, right? The king of spring. 2 USFL championships, the first UFL championship. That game wasn't even close. I don't have anything against Birmingham. I just got tired of seeing it win all the time. They clearly did not care for what I thought. They had the championship game in St. Louis, and Birmingham wipes out San Antonio 25-0. They even got their second string quarterback out there. And San Antonio just never stood a chance, never got on the board. They had so many great games this year. The championship game was kind of anticlimactic. Not only did Birmingham win their third straight championship, they did so in absolute convincing fashion against the one team that beat them this year. Now, the UFL, going to be back next year. It's going to do great. Don't know if it's going to be 8 teams or 10. Probably stay at 8 to build on what they have. But they do have one problem. Attendance. Their television ratings are through the roof. They're very happy about that. But the attendance isn't that great outside of St. Louis. D.C. does pretty well and everyone else. But Michigan over here and Memphis, these two guys, they really got to work on their attendance here because that just looks cavernous, Memphis always has trouble. They should have kept that team in Tampa. But, yeah, Michigan, they got to do something here. So you wonder, should they move from Detroit? Now, that would be kind of a sign that things aren't stable. Should they move to another venue in Detroit? That might be an idea. But you got to remember, they announced the UFL in January after merging the two leagues. So maybe they didn't have a whole year to do full-scale marketing. So I think they should give both Ford Field and the Liberty Bowl another chance after a full year of actual proper marketing. If it doesn't work then, you got to make some hard decisions. But it appears that the UFL is stable. It's going to be around a while. I don't know if they're going to expand or not this year, but it's coming, and hopefully one day One of those teams will be the Pittsburgh Maulers. So I hope you guys have a fantastic Friday. Have a great weekend. And hey, I will see you next week. Until then, das vidanya.